In northern Uganda, post-war recovery has been slow but steady. There is an unmistakable urge to move on here. The spirits are up in northern Uganda. But one thing continues to divide opinion here. Communities cannot agree on the best form of justice for the LRA, especially the group's top leaders.
It was also so traumatizing to the community because many were amputated, many lost their parents, many, as I speak, still have got bullet splinters in them, many got permanently displaced to the extent that identity of their relatives cannot be traced.
Vincent Oti is especially a divisive figure in Atiak. You mention his name and everyone will get emotional. 19 years ago, he commanded a massacre here where scores of civilians were executed. So we're driving down this Gulu-Juba road. The road also leads to the border with South Sudan, and we're driving to the home village of Vincent Oti, the man who ordered the Atiaka massacre of 1995. And we want to find out what his village thinks of him. He's long been dead, and the entire LRA as a group. The road to Pachiro East is rough and bumpy. Pachiro is a humble farming village located north of Atiak, and this is where Vincent Oti has his ancestry. This village is where he ran in the late 1980s to join a rebellion which would later rank as one of the bloodiest on the continent. Oti returned on several occasions to torment the village by ordering abductions and targeted killings before he was executed in 2008, allegedly on the orders of his commander, Joseph Kony. This is the compound where he was born and raised. The houses have since been rebuilt. The old ones crumbled away when the occupants fled to mass camps. I've come to meet Mose Flamingo Oyenga, Oti's paternal uncle. He tells me he does not miss his cousin.
He wanted to have me killed for refusing the boys to join the war. I used to live in constant fear. Government should have the final word on how the LRA should be punished. I think some of the things they did are beyond our understanding as civilians.
Back at Atiak Catholic Parish, Catechist Joseph Lodo's teaching is about forgiveness, something northern Uganda would love to see but cannot agree on. For much of this region, it has been a forward march to recovery. The same, however, cannot be said for finding closure. In northern Uganda, there is still no consensus on the question of justice for the LRA. Much as the region has embraced forgiveness and reconciliation, many still think punitive action must be taken against the LRA, especially the top command structure. They say the atrocities of the LRA must never go unpunished. In this episode of Big Issue, we're joined by Stephen Ola, a transitional justice expert from the Refugee Law Project, to explore the paradox of peace for northern Uganda. Stephen, thank you for joining us on the program.
You're welcome, Ronnie.
I want to ask you about your view of how transitional justice is taking shape in northern Uganda.
I think there has been some significant progress in terms of trying to deal with the legacies of the Lord's Resistance Army conflict. But recently, I would say we have lost momentum for a number of reasons. The war itself took very long. The impact has been quite significant. If you visit northern Uganda, you'll find that it's very clear the devastation that the war caused in terms of the social infrastructure, the economic infrastructure, even the political infrastructure. And a number of both direct and indirect victims still continue to cry for more help. And it's part of dealing with these concerns of the victim that transitional justice should pay attention to. In Juba, the momentum was quite high in terms of a whole agenda item of the peace process, the agreement on accountability and reconciliation, which set a very comprehensive framework for this country to deal with the legacies of the violence. It was recognized that in post-conflict northern Uganda, there will be need for the government to investigate the full extent of the violence that happened, to identify and map out the number of victims who fell to direct violation, but also as a consequence of the war. And as we talk now, we still don't know how many people fell prey or victims to the insurgency in northern Uganda. There's still a number of victims who are living with physical injuries caused by the war. There are several thousands of people who are suffering different degrees of psychological impact of the war. And all these groups still continue to grapple the challenges in post-conflict situation. These are all things that we could comprehensively deal with if we had a robust, I would say, transitional justice initiatives. But as we talk now, the victims still feel very unacknowledged. The perpetrators are still at large. Reparation, which is the most critical component of transitional justice, continues to elude many. We have seen some token appreciation, I call it token appreciation, given to very few victims group. And some of these have mainly been politicized and has not reached the most vulnerable and those who have been targeted. We have seen a PRDP, a Peace Recovery and Development Program, focusing more on the hardware of the recovery and failing to address the key transitional justice question. So as we talk now, I can tell you that we still have a lot of unfinished business. We still have a number of victims who continue to live with physical injuries and psychological injuries. The communities are still very divided. There's a lot of bitterness still in the hearts and minds of very many communities in northern Uganda.